I saw the spreadsheet on his laptop screen for exactly 3 seconds before he slammed it shut. 3 seconds was all it took to see the column headers. Personal account, amount, monthly withdrawal. My stomach dropped like I'd missed a step walking downstairs. We'd been married for 8 years. 8 years. And apparently, there was an entire financial life I knew nothing about. "What is that?" I asked, already knowing my voice sounded strange. Tight, like I was talking through a closed throat. "Nothing. Work stuff," Michael said, not even looking at me. He closed the laptop and stood up from the kitchen table, so fast his chair scraped against the hardwood. "I need to get ready. I have a client call in 20 minutes. It was Saturday morning. We were supposed to be planning our anniversary trip to Cancun. His client calls could wait, but I didn't push it then. I should have. That 3-second glimpse would have saved me a lot of heartache if I'd trusted my gut and demanded answers right then. Instead, I poured another cup of coffee and told myself I was being paranoid. Life with Michael had been good. Really good, actually. We met at Northwestern during my junior year. He was this confident, charming business major with a 5-year plan that actually made sense. While my friends were dating guys who figured things out eventually, Michael already had his trajectory mapped. He got an MBA, landed a job at a commercial real estate firm, and by 32, he was a senior analyst bringing home $220,000 a year. We bought our house in Evanston when I was 28, a beautiful 3-bedroom Victorian with original hardwood floors and a backyard that caught the afternoon sun. My name's Ashley, by the way. I'm a graphic designer, freelance mostly, which meant I had flexibility when we decided to start trying for a family. That was 5 years ago. We weren't super aggressive about it at first, just stopped using protection, figured it would happen naturally. It didn't. We did 2 rounds of fertility testing, then decided to pursue adoption instead. The process started 3 years ago, and we were approved and waiting. Everything felt like it was on track. Michael had his career momentum. I had my design work, my friends from college, my book club that met every other Thursday at the bookshelf downtown. We'd renovated the kitchen 2 years ago, granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, the whole thing. Our friends thought we had it figured out. Hell, I thought we had it figured out. On the surface, we were the couple people used as reference points. "You guys want relationship advice?" My friend Jennifer joked at brunch one Sunday. "Ask Ashley and Michael. They've got the manual." I'd laughed, but I also felt that warm glow of validation. We weren't perfect, obviously. Michael could be distant sometimes, buried in his phone during dinner. He worked late a lot, and his job stress could make him snippy. But what marriage didn't have those things? We communicated. We had date nights. Well, we scheduled them anyway. We were building something real. The adoption process had actually brought us closer. There's something about going through a home study together, about someone officially documenting that you're fit to be parents, that makes you feel like you're on a real mission. The social worker, Ms. Chen, had been thorough but kind. She'd looked at our finances, our marriage stability, our support system. She'd asked Michael why he wanted to be a father, and he'd gotten this soft look in his eyes and talked about wanting to give a child the kind of stable, loving home he'd had growing up. I'd believed him completely. The adoption was supposed to finalize within the next 4 to 6 months. We were in the final stages. We'd even started looking at boys. There was this 4-year-old named Jaden we were particularly interested in, a kid with serious abandonment issues who needed a patient, committed family. Michael had spent an hour looking at his file, at the photo of this serious-faced little boy in a striped shirt, and I'd watched my husband's face soften in a way that made me fall in love with him all over again. That was 3 weeks before I saw the spreadsheet. The thing about marriage is that you can live with someone for years and still have blind spots the size of Montana. You get comfortable. You develop routines. You assume the person sleeping next to you is living the same life you are, following the same script, wanting the same things. You don't expect them to be writing an entirely different story on the side. I tried to let it go that Saturday. I really did. I made myself focus on work. I had a logo revision due Monday for a small marketing firm in Chicago. I got through Sunday without asking again. But Monday morning, when Michael left for work, I did something I'm not proud of. I opened his laptop. The password was our anniversary date. Of course it was. The spreadsheet was still there in his downloads folder. I opened it with shaking hands. What I saw made my vision blur. The personal account column had 37 entries going back 2 years. The amounts ranged from $200 to $3,000. The monthly withdrawal column totaled out to roughly $8,000 per month. $8,000 that was just gone, unaccounted for in our shared finances. I did the math quickly. 8 grand times 12 months times 2 years. $192,000. Nearly $200,000 missing from accounts I didn't even know existed. My hands were actually shaking as I photographed the screen with my phone. Twice. 3 times. I needed proof that I wasn't imagining this. I closed the laptop and sat back in the kitchen chair, trying to breathe. The coffee maker gurgled behind me. The refrigerator hummed. Everything was normal and wrong at the same time. And that's when my phone buzzed with a text from Michael. "Hey babe, just confirming dinner with my parents tonight at 6. My mom's making her pot roast. You still good to go?" I stared at the message. His parents, his mother, Linda, who'd called me last week to ask if Michael had been stressed about something and if everything was okay between us. I'd assured her everything was fine. Everything was great. I texted back, "Yeah, I'll be there." Then I closed the group chat where we'd been discussing the Cancun trip and didn't open it again. Something had cracked open, and I had no idea how deep the damage actually went. Dinner with Michael's parents that evening felt like a performance. I sat across from Linda in their dining room, the same room where we'd announced our engagement 9 years ago, where Michael's father had raised his glass and called me the best thing that ever happened to this kid. And I smiled while she passed the mashed potatoes. Michael's father, Robert, was telling some story about a client deal that had gone sideways. Michael laughed at all the right moments. I laughed too, on cue, while my phone felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds in my purse, heavy with those photographs of the spreadsheet. "You're quiet tonight, Ash," Linda said, studying me with that particular intensity mother's perfect. She was wearing her reading glasses on a beaded chain, and she peered over them like she could see directly into my nervous system. "Just tired?" I said. "Big design project at work." "The one in Chicago?" Michael asked, and his tone was perfectly normal. Interested even, like he was a husband who cared about his wife's work, not a man with a secret account and nearly 200,000 missing dollars. "Yeah, the logo revision is kicking my ass," I said. And Michael's parents exchanged one of those looks, the gentle disapproval of people from his father's generation when women swore. I didn't care. I was past caring about small things. "Well, you'll nail it," Michael said, reaching over and squeezing my hand. His palm was warm and dry. Normal. Everything about him looked normal. I wanted to stab him with the carving knife. Instead, I squeezed back and turned to Linda. "How's the book club? Still reading those mysteries?" She lit up, grateful for the conversational lifeline, and spent the next 15 minutes discussing some Agatha Christie novel. Robert went back to his story. Michael ate his pot roast like a man without a care in the world. By the time we left at 9:15 p.m., my jaw ached from smiling. In the car on the way home, Michael reached over and put his hand on my knee. "Thanks for coming tonight. My mom really loves seeing us together. She worries sometimes, you know. I think she needs reassurance that everything's solid." I looked at his profile in the dark car, the line of his jaw, the slight bump on his nose from a basketball injury in college, the way his fingers drummed on the steering wheel to the soft jazz playing on the radio. I'd memorized this face. I'd loved this face. "Michael, I need to ask you something," I said. His hand tensed on my knee. "Okay. Are we solid?" He laughed. An actual laugh, not forced. "Where is this coming from? Of course we are. We're about to become parents, Ash." Jaden's almost ready. We're solid. I didn't say anything else the whole drive home. When we got there, Michael went upstairs to shower. I locked myself in my home office and pulled up the photos on my phone again. The spreadsheet columns blurred as my eyes filled with tears. I Googled hidden bank accounts divorce at 11 p.m., sitting in the dark with my laptop screen burning my face. Tuesday morning, I called a divorce attorney. Her name was Karen Mitchell, and she worked out of a glass office building in downtown Chicago, about 30 minutes from our house. I scheduled a consultation for Thursday at 2 p.m., telling myself it was just information gathering, just to know my options, just in case my entire marriage was built on a lie. That Thursday, I told Michael I had a client meeting that would run long. I drove to the city with my hands shaking on the wheel. The office building was sleek and modern, all minimalist furniture, and the kind of quiet that expensive professional services cultivate. Karen Mitchell was a woman in her late 50s, with sharp eyes and a wedding ring that looked older than she was. "So," she said, leaning back in her chair, "you suspect hidden assets." "I know there are hidden assets," I said. "I found a spreadsheet. $8,000 a month for 2 years. That's $192,000. Karen's expression didn't change, but her fingers stilled on her keyboard. "And your husband knows you found this?" "No." "Does he know you're here?" "No." She nodded slowly. "Okay, here's what I need to tell you. In Illinois, if you're planning to file for divorce, we need to be very careful about how we proceed. Hidden assets discovered during a marriage become relevant during discovery in a divorce proceeding. But if you access his accounts or devices without permission, that becomes a different legal issue." My stomach dropped. "So, I did something wrong?" "You opened his laptop. That's a gray area. Legally, if you have marital access to the device, meaning you use it, you know the passwords, it's in a shared space. Courts typically don't consider that unauthorized access, but I would strongly recommend you don't do any more snooping. What we do now is document what you've found and prepare for the next steps. The next steps being, if you want to file for divorce, we file. If you want to confront him first, that's your choice. But I have to tell you, most of my clients who confront first give the other party time to move assets. The moment he knows you know, the clock starts ticking on his legal obligation to preserve assets." I felt the room tilt slightly. "So I just don't say anything and file for divorce?" Karen folded her hands on her desk. "I'm not telling you what to do emotionally, Ashley. I'm telling you what happens legally. You have options, but they have different consequences." I left her office with a folder full of documents and a retainer agreement I'd signed, but hadn't paid yet. I sat in my car in the parking garage for 45 minutes, just breathing, unable to make myself turn the key. Friday, Michael came home early. 2:30 p.m., which never happened. He found me in the kitchen, where I was pretending to work on my laptop, but was actually staring at the same image for the past hour. "Hey," he said, kissing the top of my head. "Thought I'd surprise you. Client call got canceled. You want to grab lunch?" I looked up at him. The man I'd married. The man who'd talked about Jaden with such tenderness that I'd cried. The man who was apparently siphoning off $8,000 a month into accounts I didn't know about. "Sure," I said. "Let me just shut this down." But as I closed my laptop, something inside me made a decision. Karen had said I had options. I did have options, and I wasn't going to be the kind of woman who got played. "Actually," I said, standing up, "Michael, I need to talk to you about something. Something important." His face changed, just slightly. But I saw it. I saw the micro-expression of a man who'd just realized his secret wasn't a secret anymore. "What's wrong?" he asked carefully. I pulled out my phone, opened the photos of the spreadsheet, showed him the screen. His face went white, absolutely white, and in that moment, with his jaw slack and his eyes wide, I realized I'd just crossed a line I couldn't uncross. "I can explain," he said, but his voice was barely a whisper. "Then explain," I said, and I sat back down at the kitchen table, waiting for the answer that would either save our marriage or end it completely. Michael stared at the phone screen, and I watched the color drain from his face like someone was slowly turning down a faucet. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. "Where did you get this?" His voice came out hoarse. "Your laptop. The one you left open on the kitchen table about a month ago. Remember? You slammed it shut like you were hiding something from me. Turns out you were." He sank into the chair across from me, and for a moment I thought he might actually be sick. His hands were shaking, not just trembling, actually shaking, like he'd been dunked in ice water. "Ashley, I can explain this," he said again, but his voice had changed. It wasn't defensive anymore. It was the voice of a man who'd just realized his entire house of cards was collapsing. "Then explain," I said again. I kept my voice steady, even though my heart was hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. "Explain where the money is going. Explain why you've hidden almost $200,000 from me. Explain why you're asking for a separate budget while secretly draining accounts I don't even know exist." He looked away. Out the window, toward the backyard where we'd planted those cherry trees last spring. I'd chosen the variety, Yoshino, pale pink blossoms, the kind that would bloom every April. I'd been thinking about a kid running through that yard. Jaden, maybe, learning to climb trees and eat cherries right off the branch. "It's not what you think," Michael said finally. "Then what is it? Because I've got the spreadsheet right here. Personal account, amount. Monthly withdrawal, $8,000, 37 times. That's math, Michael. Math doesn't lie." He rubbed his face with both hands, pressing hard like he could push the whole situation away. When he dropped his hands, his eyes were wet. "I wanted to tell you," he said. 1,000 times I wanted to tell you. But once I didn't tell you, it just got worse. The longer I didn't say anything, the more impossible it became to say anything. Tried telling me what? That you have a second family? That you're in debt? That you've been gambling? What is it? "It's therapy," he said. I blinked. "What?" "Therapy. I've been seeing a therapist for 2 years. Dr. Sarah Chen. $800 a session every week. That's the 8,000 a month." I felt the room tilt sideways. "You're seeing a therapist?" "Yes. And I know I should have told you. I know that makes me a liar. But I was ashamed, Ashley. I was so fucking ashamed." "Of what? Of going to therapy? Of going to—" "Michael, that's— of why I needed therapy." He stood up abruptly and walked to the sink, gripping the edge of the granite countertop like it was the only thing keeping him upright. "Of the fact that I've been lying to you about something huge for years, and I couldn't figure out how to stop." My stomach did a slow roll. "What are you lying about?" He didn't answer immediately. His shoulders were heaving like he was trying to breathe through something solid. "I can't have biological children," he said finally. The words came out all at once, like he'd been holding them underwater and finally let them burst free. "I found out 7 years ago. Low sperm count. The doctors said it was essentially impossible. Less than 1% chance." I felt my legs go weak. I sat back down in the chair slowly. "I was supposed to tell you when you wanted to start trying, but I didn't. I just didn't. And you were so excited about it, about the idea of us having a kid together, and I couldn't bear to be the one to take that away from you. So I let you go through all those fertility tests. I let you think maybe it was you. I let you suggest adoption like it was this noble backup plan, when really, it was the only plan that was ever going to work." "Michael!" "I've been in therapy for 2 years trying to figure out how to tell you. Trying to figure out how to be okay with the fact that I let you believe something that wasn't true. And every week, Dr. Chen would tell me I needed to just say it, just rip the Band-Aid off, but I couldn't, because I was terrified that once you knew, you'd look at me the way you're looking at me right now. I didn't know how I was looking at him. I couldn't feel my face." "The adoption," I heard myself say. "The adoption was supposed to be— we were doing that because we both wanted to, not because—" "I do want to. God, Ashley, I want to adopt Jaden so badly it physically hurts. But I wanted you to choose it because you wanted it, not because I'd lied about the only alternative. I stood up. I needed to move. I walked to the window, the same window Michael had been staring out of, and looked at those cherry trees. They were growing nicely. In another year or two, they'd be full-sized. In another year or two, we were supposed to have a child running through that yard. Do you understand? I said slowly, that you've made every decision about our family life based on a lie. That you let me go through fertility treatments and hormones and invasive tests when you already knew it was pointless? That you watched me cry? Do you remember when I cried? When my period came that month, we thought maybe it had worked. You held me while I cried, and you already knew. I know. His voice broke. I know, and I hate myself for it. You're damn right you should hate yourself for it. I turned around to face him. He looked like a man who'd been hit by a truck. His eyes were red and swollen, his face blotchy. Part of me wanted to feel sympathy for him. Part of me wanted to pick up that granite countertop and throw it at his head. I need to think, I said. I need to not be in this house with you right now. Where are you going? I don't know. Somewhere. Anywhere. I can't look at you right now. I grabbed my purse and my keys, and I walked out to the car without waiting for him to respond. I sat in the driveway for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, trying to figure out where to go. Not my parents. They lived in Michigan, and I wasn't ready to explain this. Not Jennifer. She'd want to organize some kind of intervention. Not the office. I couldn't pretend to work right now. I drove to the park near our house, the one with the walking trail that loops around the pond. I got out and walked without any particular destination, just trying to put one foot in front of the other, while my brain short-circuited. He'd lied about the one thing that mattered most, the one thing that had shaped the entire trajectory of our life together. And the reason he'd lied, because he was ashamed, somehow made it worse, not better. Because it meant he'd had time to tell me. He'd had therapy sessions, plural, where apparently a trained professional had been telling him to tell me, and he'd chosen not to. He'd chosen the lie over me, over and over again. I walked for an hour. My phone buzzed with texts from Michael. Apologies, desperate apologies, begging me to come home. But I didn't respond. When I finally sat down on a bench by the water, my phone rang. It was Karen Mitchell, my divorce attorney. I'd given her my number during the consultation, in case she needed to ask follow-up questions. We hadn't actually retained her yet, but apparently she decided to call anyway. Ashley, she said when I answered, I hope this isn't a bad time. I was reviewing your file, and I had a question about the timeline of— He's in therapy, I interrupted. The money, it's for therapy. He's been hiding the fact that he can't have biological children. There was a pause on the other end of the line. I see, Karen said carefully. That changes some things. Does it? Does it change the fact that he lied to me for 7 years? Does it change the fact that he let me go through fertility treatments that I didn't need to go through? Does it change the fact that I've been planning my entire life around a lie? No, Karen said. It doesn't change any of those things, but it does provide context. Context that might be relevant to how you want to proceed. I didn't respond. I was watching a family on the other side of the pond. A man and a woman and 2 kids, maybe 8 and 6, throwing breadcrumbs to the ducks. The kids were laughing. The man had his arm around the woman's waist. I don't know what I want to do, I said finally. That's okay. You don't have to decide right now. But I do want to tell you something, and I say this as someone who's been doing this job for 25 years. Infertility is one of the most traumatic things a marriage can go through. And shame is one of the most toxic emotions. Your husband is clearly experiencing both. That doesn't excuse the lie, but it does explain it. He should have trusted me with the truth. He should have, Karen agreed, but people don't always do what they should. Sometimes they do what they can. After we hung up, I sat on that bench for another hour, watching the family on the other side of the pond. Eventually, they packed up their bread bag and walked away. I was alone with the ducks. I drove home as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. When I pulled into the driveway, Michael was sitting on the front steps, waiting for me. He looked like he hadn't moved since I left, His eyes were red and hollow. "I want to know everything," I said. "Every appointment, every conversation with Dr. Chen, every moment you chose not to tell me. I want it all." He nodded. "Okay, okay, I'll tell you everything. And I'm not forgiving you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I'm not making any decisions right now. I'm going to sit with this, and you're going to help me understand how we got here." "Okay," he said again. We went inside, and for the first time in our marriage, we had the conversation we should have had 7 years ago. It wasn't redemption, not that night. But it was honesty, and after 8 years of lies, honesty felt like a start. 3 months later, after endless therapy sessions, couples therapy, which I'd insisted on, and a lot of very difficult conversations, Michael and I were still together. We didn't adopt Jaden. I couldn't do it. The whole process felt tainted by the lie, and I needed to step back and figure out what I actually wanted, separate from what I thought Michael wanted, separate from what I thought I was supposed to want. Michael's shame turned out to run deeper than infertility. His father had put a lot of pressure on him to be the perfect son, to accomplish things, to build a legacy. The infertility diagnosis had felt like a personal failure, a way he was letting his father down. He'd chosen to hide it rather than face that disappointment. We're in therapy still, both of us, separately and together. Dr. Chen, a different Dr. Chen than Michael's therapist but still, has helped me understand that lying in a marriage rarely happens in a vacuum. It's usually a symptom of something bigger: shame, fear, a breakdown in communication, or all three. That doesn't mean I've forgiven him completely. Trust, once broken, takes a very long time to rebuild. But I'm rebuilding it. The cherry trees in our backyard are blooming again this spring. Michael and I planted some new flowers last weekend. We still don't know if we're going to pursue adoption, or if we're going to just be the two of us. We're taking it one day at a time. And I'm learning that sometimes the biggest act of revenge isn't destroying someone. It's holding them accountable while giving them the chance to become better. Michael had to face what he'd done. He had to sit with the weight of his lies and own them completely. That's been harder on him, I think, than any divorce would have been. As for me, I learned that financial independence matters. I opened my own business account. I stopped asking for permission to spend money. I stopped assuming my husband's financial world was my financial world too. I became the architect of my own life, and I made sure I had the tools to walk away if I needed to. I'm still here, but I'm here because I chose to be, not because I didn't have options. And that changes everything.